Invocation. Towards the One, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of Guidance. Amen. I know we just said Amen, but I actually want to say it again. I won't go into a big long thing like last time, but that just felt like the warm-up act, so maybe it helps us arrive, and now we'll be more present for it. Let's try again, shall we? Paul's ready. Towards the One, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of Guidance. Amen. That felt a little bit better to me. Let's see if I can remember how to play this one. It's a Bismillah. I have a capo with me today. Yay me. Bismillah, Bismillah, Ir-Rahman, Ir-Rahim. Bismillah, Bismillah, Ir-Rahman, Ir-Rahim. Bismillah, Bismillah. No, but I think it's about to. Like, that wasn't nearly long enough, and we should do it again for Zikr tonight, huh? Yeah. So, let's visit the prayer Salat that is on the, I think it's on the second page of that booklet. Reason being, Murshid said that the prayer Psalm is solar, that is like the sun, that is radiant and magnificent, and that Salat is like the moon, and that it is responsive and receptive, and it addresses all of the experiences of our humanness that are trying to recognize and point our hearts towards God in all of the forms of our human relationships and the wisdom teachings and that which supports us and meets us in our everyday life. So, Salat. Most gracious Lord, Master, Messiah, and Savior of humanity, we greet Thee with all humility. Thou art the first cause and the last effect, the divine light and the spirit of guidance, Alpha and Omega. Thy light is in all forms, Thy love in all beings, in a loving mother, in a kind father, in an innocent child, in a helpful friend, and in an inspiring teacher. Allow us to recognize Thee in all Thy holy names and forms, as Rama, as Krishna, as Shiva, as Buddha. Let us know Thee as Abraham, as Solomon, as Zarathustra, as Moses, as Jesus, as Muhammad, and in many other names and forms known and unknown to the world. We adore Thy past. Thy presence deeply enlightens our being, and we look for Thy blessing in the future. O Messenger, Christ, Nabi, the Rasul of God, Thou whose heart constantly reaches upward, Thou comest on earth with a message, as a dove from above, when Dharma decayeth, and speakest the word that is put into Thy mouth, as the light filleth the crescent moon. Let the star of the divine light shining in thy heart be reflected in the hearts of thy devotees. May the message of God reach far and wide, illuminating and making the whole humanity as one single family in the parenthood of God. Were you trying to remind me to put it in the chat window for the Zoomers?
No. Then let's switch out books, which I didn't quite understand.
Sorry, I forgot to put it in the chat window until we were like 3 lines in. Oh, look at that. Aleem has it on his phone. Okay, friends. So today we'll have one other prayer in those books later, but not right now.
Sure.
Unless you want. I mean, you can read all of them if you want. You can do all of them. So for a theme for right now, it's the new moon. And I've been reflecting on, that's funny, isn't it? Reflecting on the non-reflection of the new moon, or the all-reflecting moon, regardless of what we see of her. That we have this very, it's very natural, it's very normal for us to see the world from our own perspective. What else could we do? And so we see the part of the moon that is shining toward us, and that's how we define and describe it. So that's what the moon is. No, the moon is constantly, the sun bounces off 50% of the moon all the time, even when we don't see it, right? And right now, it's just that the moon is somewhere close to the sun, and so the light of the sun is bouncing the other direction, and we don't see it. So, all right, so new moonness. And then I go, how fascinating to think about the different qualities of, we associate, and maybe you don't, I do. I think about the full moon as being the culmination of things and whatnot. It's opposite the sun, which is so interesting. And really, there's so much energy of this alignment of the sun with the moon from our human perspective, or Michael had a fancy word for it, geocentric. Is that what the word you used for it, Michael? That was from the earth. That's we're focused on just our earthness, right? So, which is great. That's what we're supposed to do. So, new moonness is emptiness. It's darkness, it's stillness, it's waiting, it's a completion of something, it's anticipating something, but really the gift and the blessing of the new moon is doing nothing, right? It's not letting things go or inviting or welcome things in. Really, it's the stillness that is the perfection of the absolute moment of the new moon. And the same thing is true with the full moon. The same thing is true with each of our breaths. That is the peak of the inhalation, the depth of the exhalation. All of the stuff in the middle that is movement is useful and beautiful and has its function. And then there's the moment at the peak of the inhalation and the moment at the peak of the exhalation. That is what Murshid would call Kemal. Kemal. And we tend to focus a lot on the Jalal, that is the power and the action, and the Jamal, that is the beauty and the receptivity. And we tend to ignore the Kemal, which is that pivot point, that is the stillness. It's not very interesting. There isn't anything happening there, and that's the point. And where we run into trouble is when we try to make things happen there, because there's what Murshid refers to, and I'll share lots of his words around it, but in essence, Kemal means perfection, but it is perfection by way of equality between opposing forces. If one force is in charge, we have a clear direction, a clear energy, a clear purpose, with whatever direction or purpose that is, even if that purpose is sleeping. That has a clear purpose and a clear function, right? We might not celebrate it as much as the actual driving or generating computer code or preparing food or, whatever actions, outer discernible things, but equally valuable. And Murshid would say, well, it's equally valuable because our lives are so focused on the action and the outer, the repose is even more important because it's neglected. Not because it's more important than the action, but because we don't pay attention to it, we don't value it, we avoid it, we don't really celebrate and cultivate the gifts of repose. But even more than repose, for right now, in the new moon, we have the moon and the sun that are together. So sun and moon are pulling us in the same direction. That's a lot of power, eh? And we tend to think the moon's doing nothing. Well, maybe the moon is adding some percentage of pull in a sun direction. Cool, huh? Are you bored with the lecture yet? So, so while Kemal is said to be balance and perfection, Murshid also calls it destruction. It is catastrophe. And it is that everything that goes wrong is because there's a conflict of those two opposing forces, and we have not paused and allowed space for one of those to set the tone. So then we're pulled equally in two different directions, and there's suffering and distress. So these things shift in so many aspects of our lives. Like I said, every heartbeat has that, right? Right? Every breath has that. Every action of the day, every minute, every hour, every phase of activity, every day cycle.
Between every thought.
Between every thought, yes. And every feeling, every emotion, every sensation. So we're going to focus today on that pivot point, the Kemal aspect. Okay, so I brought you 1,000 readings from Murshid. First, I hope I put these in the right order.
Was that like Arabian Nights?
Yes. Just keep going. Huh. No, this is not in the right order. What did I do? I think it printed them in the opposite order. I have such a fun relationship with printers, I'll tell you what. Oh no, I did do that right. That is what I wanted. Sheesh. Okay, so from, here are some of the words that Murshid uses to describe Kemal, some of which I just said. Perfection, completion, consummation, maturity, ripeness, non-action, meditation, in Murshid's definition of meditation, which is an absolute stillness, silence, closed eyes, getting in touch with the life within, wisdom, climax, limit of progress, it cannot go further, and inner conflict. Fun, huh? They're all over the place. So this is from the Dutch papers. The Dutch papers are sometimes called the supplementary papers. Are y'all Sufi nerds? Do you read all the Sufi stuffs?
Once upon a time.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
That's much recently.
Yeah. Welcome back. All right, so this is from part 6 on psychology, on the conditions of the mind. The mind has 3 conditions. Jalal, that's the power, the dynamic energy. Jamal, that's the receptivity. And Kemal. Kemal has 2 conditions. Either there's no thought at all in the mind. How often does that happen? Either there's no thought at all in the mind. This is for the mystic only because he practices it. That the mystic practices having no thought at all in the mind. Or, here's the second aspect of Kemal, no thought is intentionally formed, and we take the first thought that comes into the mind and do that.
Very interesting. I don't think I've ever heard that before.
I love these guys. Look, here's Paul and Zahira. They're like, ah! We're back in Sufi land. All right. So now he'll say a little bit more about this, but there's a very distinct quality about this. This is not like erratic craziness, right? This is really from a pure, perfected state of mind. Then, If it's really clean, the immediate thing that arises, here's what Murshid says about it. If we could always do this, we should need no other guidance. We should not need to learn very much. We should know all things directly, because this knowledge comes direct from the universal consciousness. Are you a little mind blown right now? The spirit of guidance. Right. So it's either the complete stillness of the mind, no thought at all, or from a really perfected awareness, noticing every immediate thing that arises and do that. Fun? Wild? I'm not putting my life in charge of that, like that. I'm not putting that in charge of my life. I'm too tangled, like any thoughts that I become aware of, they've already taken 4 steps at least from the immediate impulse into my awareness of it, my recognition of it, and ability to choose and act on it. Like, I don't have that kind of instant clarity. If you do, more power to you. Okay, so then this is a set of associations from the Gathas. So these are really what Murshid described as the formative, the foundational, the first teachings, that once someone is initiated on the Sufi path, these are the first things that someone should study, that are the Gathas. And so this one is from a section on the symbolism of lines, that is just like the discernible physical lines that you can see. The horizontal line and the vertical line together make a complete cross. So this is the symbol of Kemal. That is the vertical line and the horizontal line, and that section in the center where they intersect. That's Kemal, right? Perfect balance. The vertical line is the sign of God, and the horizontal line is the world. There are about 10 of these, and we're just, maybe more, maybe 12. So I'm just going to repeat each of them a couple times, and you can consider this Kemal aspect is the perfect balance point between the vertical and the horizontal lines. First one is, the vertical line is the sign of God. The horizontal line is the world. Next one. The vertical line represents heaven. The horizontal line, earth. So he put those 2 statements right next to each other, but the world he's defining differently from earth. Oh. Right? So the first one that he said is the vertical line is God. The horizontal is the world, which is worldly life. It's the material, temporal existence, the world. Now, he said, the vertical line is heaven, and the horizontal is earth. Okay, next one. The horizontal line represents this world. The vertical line, that world. And then he calls that world is the next world. Fun?
Sure.
Is your brain a little broken already?
I'm doing algebra charts in my head.
Okay, excellent. So that one, he said, the horizontal line is this world. The horizontal line is this world. The vertical line is that world. The next world. Chris likes it. Next one. The vertical line conveys the meaning yes. And the horizontal line conveys the meaning no. Perfect, exactly that. Sophia just said, La ilaha. Which you could use the whole zikr phrase in that too. La ilaha illallah. He didn't use that one, but he could have. Okay. Next one, the vertical line denotes life, The horizontal line, death. There's only the one of them where he said horizontal first, so my brain's doing a little hiccup while I go. Okay, so life, death. The vertical line represents strength. The horizontal line, powerlessness. You okay?
Yeah. With everyone you do, I picture the center. I
Perfect.
picture the center.
Good.
Every comparison, it's fascinating.
Good. Wonderful.
So cool.
Yeah. And we're all doing both all the time to different degrees, right? So there's always this question about where are you on this line, or if you could graph like where you are with some kind of percentage of the vertical and some percentage of the horizontal. Yeah. Did you want to say something?
No. I was agreeing.
Okay.
Notice
Bill.
the horizontal seems to be getting short shrift. The top dog each time is the vertical.
Maybe.
I'm wondering, what's that about?
Yeah. I'm going to put that back in the category of, this is just like what I do with that, is the same thing as what Mershid is talking about. Like, we put all of our attention and energy in the outer world. We put all of our focus and our value around the actions and the associations of the earth plane and everyday life. And we don't pay any attention to the other things. So he's always emphasizing and integrating and weaving in these reminders that we need to give this equal attention. And because there's a natural propensity in our humanness and our conditioning and the society and the world that we're moving around in, then we need to steer directly and solidly in the direction that really is needed for balance. So that doesn't mean that it is more important, though actually, yeah, he would say, because the God element is the eternal. And the things of the world and the things of limitation are all going to go away. And we know that. So if we keep putting equal or more attention on the things that are temporal, we're going to set ourselves up for a whole lot of suffering. That we have plenty of suffering already. He doesn't negate that. And he doesn't say we're supposed to try to avoid that. He just says we need not to try to amplify that or to create more of it. Yeah. All right, I think there are 6 more of these. Are you okay for them?
Yes.
Michael put a heart on there. Thanks, Michael. Glad you like it. Okay, where were we? Powerlessness. The vertical line is spirit, and the horizontal line is matter. All right, this one will, we'll see what you think of this. The vertical line is the masculine, and the horizontal line is the feminine. Now he didn't give it short shrift at all, did he, Bill?
I would say vertical instead.
We have 3 people arguing with Murshid on that one. At least 3 people who are verbalizing their arguments with Murshid on that one. Okay. The vertical line is the sun, and the horizontal line is the moon. The vertical line is the day, and the horizontal line is the night. The vertical line is the positive. I'll say more about this in a moment. And Alim said, keep focusing on the center. The center is the dancing ground. Nice, Alim. And Alim is dancing now. He's on his porch swing, and he's like this. Okay, where were we? Oh, so positive and negative. Vertical line is positive, and he doesn't use positive and negative as good and bad. He uses them as, he describes them as the sides of a battery or something, where the positive is just something that is expressive and the negative is receptive, but they're equally useful and valuable, and it's not a judgment call, but that's how he uses positive and negative. 2 more. The vertical line is the power, and the horizontal line is the beauty. No short shrift there either, huh? Power and beauty. Lastly, the vertical line is God, and the horizontal line is man, or humanity. Good? Interesting?
Very.
Overwhelming? Okay, any other comments about that before we go do something else? I printed a blank piece of paper, as usual. I think it was just one blank one, that's unusual.
That's for the stillness where there's nothing happening.
Did you hear that? This blank piece of paper is for the stillness where nothing is happening. I think you got a celebratory hand gesture from Alim. I think that's what that was. Now you got a nod.
Or is he still dancing?
No, he's swinging though. He's got the porch swing going. Okay, so you'll be very happy to know we're going to do some qasab practice. You're welcome. I brought the fun killer on purpose. It's a metronome. My husband calls it a fun killer. I think it's a good name for it. So I do that partially as a nod to Tim and partially just for the joy of it. Okay, so the joy of what?
The joy of the fun.
Yeah, the joy of the name of it. And the what? Yeah. This is the joy. This is the metronome.
Let's put them together.
That's where they intersect.
All right, so we do lots of forms of breath practice, and on purpose. The Murshid said that for the Sufi, the breath is the first lesson and the breath is the last lesson. And that the breath is tied to everything about our energy and our experience of everyday life. That is, it's tied to the quality of our thoughts and our feelings. It's tied to our emotions and the rhythm of our movements in the world. And it is naturally responsive to all stimuli that we don't think about it, we don't notice it, but anything that happens affects the rhythm of our breath. And simultaneously, if we wish to cultivate mastery, if we shape our breath according to our will, then we simultaneously shape our response to and the environment's response to us. So there's an effect that happens. It's constantly both and, right? That we do have an influence on our environment and we are influenced by our environment. So with these three different qualities of Jalal, Jamal, and Kemal, we tend to focus on just the Jalal, the action, or the Jamal, the receptivity, and we try to balance those things, but we don't pay a lot of attention to the moments in between. So we're going to do a series of qasab practices where first we'll just breathe in through the left and breathe out through the right a few times, and then we'll breathe in through the right and out through the left a few times. That is just balancing those two. Then we're going to add a pause. So we'll breathe in through the left, pause, and out through the right. In through the left, pause, out through the right. That one is called a triangle breath, and specifically it's an inverted triangle. So when we do that, breathe in, hold the breath at the peak of the inhalation, and then breathe out. And we're going to do this in equal measure. So it'll be 4 counts in, hold for 4, out for 4. Then we're focusing on this fullness of vitality, of energy and strength. So that one tends to be most desirable for us. That's what we want to do. That's what feels good to us. So then we're going to break that by balancing it with a square breath, which means we'll breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. Breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. Right? Square. Then we're going to do the reversed of that first triangle. So this one is the upright triangle where we'll breathe in, breathe out, hold. Breathe in, breathe out, hold. So we're working our way gradually and eventually to pausing only at the exhalation, which is the least comfortable for us because really it symbolizes, symbolically, death.
No breath.
Right. So we won't do them for a long time. With all of these, we're just going to keep it on a count of 4, which really is much faster than how we normally breathe. But we're going to do that so that it feels like accessible and safe enough. And of course, if it is uncomfortable for you, if you feel yourself getting anxious with the arbitrary controlled breath, then go with your own natural rhythm. Breathe in as long as you need to, pause if you want or not, breathe out when you need to, but keeping our attention on the intention of the different rhythms of breath can help us get that effect, even if we're not controlling the breath in that arbitrary way, right? Okay. What else do I need to say about that? Maybe nothing. We'll take some natural breaths to begin with. Throughout all of these, you are welcome to not concentrate on anything in particular. You can just think breathing in, holding, breathing out, and that's fine. I'll try to give clear instructions for each of the phases as we go. And it can also, if you have the brain awareness to do this while concentrating on the breath, if you wish to concentrate on Allah on the inhalation, Allah on the hold, Hu on the exhalation, and Hu on the hold of the exhalation when we get there, you're welcome to do that. There isn't a particular direction of magic around that per se, but it sometimes helps to just have the mind focused in a direction that you wish, on a phrase and an ideal that feels nourishing to the heart. There are also a lot of breath practices where the invitation is to breathe in Allah and breathe out Hu, so you have a sense of filling with God presence, and then letting the Hu be a purification of just the atmosphere that you allow on the exhalation. But that's more of just like a felt sense of it than a specific intention. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, too much talking. Sure. Okay, so here's our count. Just taking a few natural breaths to begin with. That feels comfortable for you. Enjoying having the freedom of breath before we start managing it on purpose. And I like to use Murshid's hand gestures for managing the nostrils, which is, you can do this if you wish, or you can just do it this way, or yogic style, however is comfortable for you. The way that I do it, Murshid's instruction is the right thumb is under the chin, the right middle finger is responsible for the right nostril, the left hand wraps around, and the left thumb is responsible for the left nostril. It is the most awkward hand gesture, but if it feels good for you to align with Murshid's instructions, you're welcome to do that with me if you wish. So I think we're going to do 4 of each of these breath patterns, and we'll have a little pause in between each so we can just feel the atmosphere of it. So beginning with an exhalation, and breathing in on the left, out on the right, in left, out right, in left, out right, one more time, in left, out right, and rest. And breathing out, ready, and in on the right, out left, in right, out left, in right, out left, one more time, in right, out left. And relaxing. So in just a moment, we'll do the first triangle breath, which is the inverted. We'll breathe in through the left, hold, and out through the right. We're only going to go in that direction, in through the left, hold, out through the right. And we'll do that one 4 times as well. A couple more natural breaths. And breathing out. And in on the left. Hold. Out right. In left. Hold. Out right. In left. Hold. Out right. One more time, in left. Hold. Out right. And relax. And the next one that we do in just a moment will be the square breath, where we'll breathe in on the left, hold, out on the right, and hold. We'll keep it in that direction. We'll do that also 4 times. A couple more natural breaths. Breathing out. And in on the left. Hold. Out right. Hold. In left. Hold. Out right. Hold. In left. Hold. Out right. Hold. In left, last time. Hold. Out right. Hold. And relax. And the next one we'll do in just a moment will be the triangle breath, inhaling, immediately exhaling, and then holding at the depth of the exhalation. As a reminder or an instruction, because I didn't say this earlier, the invitation, especially on the hold of the exhalation, is that you hold the breath by just maintaining the tension in the lungs and across the chest, not by closing down the throat or the nostrils. You don't want to close anything down, you just want to rest in that atmosphere of whatever that emptiness is. A couple more natural breaths. Breathing out. In on the left. Out right. Hold. In left. Out right. Hold. In left. Out right. Hold. In left. Out right. Hold. And relax. We'll have a few minutes of silence to just notice the quality of the breath, the quality of the thoughts, the atmosphere of the heart, the physical body. Amen. Anything you'd like to share about that?
Just noticed it was so much easier than to be quiet in myself after the breathing.
Nice. Good.
Yeah.
I've noticed because of doing the casa practice on Mondays, I was like holding at the top, and that used to be a really uncomfortable thing for me, and it stopped. And so now I actually don't like holding at the bottom as much anymore.
Good noticing.
It's just a bit odd. Once you get used to certain things.
Yeah. Yeah. And our pause was much shorter today on all of them. For our Monday mornings, we do a casa where it's inhaling for 4, hold for 8, and exhale for 4. So it's a triangle, but an extended inhalation, hold. Yeah. You want to say something?
bubbling up. I have no words.
Okay.
Even though it was triangle, I was really aware of lines and still the vertical and horizontal. I'm kind of feeling that intersection here, and the sinuses kind of widened, and that was a relief.
Nice.
So that was helpful.
Sinuses.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I often see the lines of the triangle also. There are some practices where there isn't a pause necessarily, but that we really try to see the breath as a circle that has no straight lines and no hard angles, but with those ones I also see the sharp lineness of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It brought forth an image of the lines intersecting with a circle around it.
Beautiful.
And so that's what I was going. I keep seeing
Yeah.
that. So
Good.
yeah, there's a circle around the intersection, and that's widening
It's a both.
circle.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent.
You were viewfinder.
Yeah. I like it.
That's kind of true.
Anything else y'all want to share? We have about 1 million more words of Murshid. All right, let's see. Take that one. This one. Okay. Yeah. So this is also from the Dutch papers, but from a different section. From his class for Marides, part 8, on the purification, I'm sorry, not the purification, the phenomena of breath, but then he'll say purification. But the section is called the phenomena of breath. There are the mystical ways of purification, the purification of earth, water, fire, air, and ether that we're very familiar with, those elemental purification breaths. Then the breath must be made vital. Sometimes the breath is not vital, it is weak. And for that reason, it cannot be discerned. What must be done to make it vital? When we want to strengthen our muscles, we exercise them. The breath must be exercised. The Jalal breath, which is on the right side of the body, has a connection with the sun. The Jamal breath, on the left side of the body, has its connection with the moon. The breath that flows either through one nostril or the other, but there are times when it flows through both nostrils. This is Kemal, the uniting of the two currents, which brings about the destruction of the effect of both. I know, we don't expect that. I mean, I do, but but I remember being surprised by that. We're like, isn't that what we want? No, it's, I mean, like, there is the moment we want to acknowledge it and recognize it, respect it for what it is, but it is the destruction of the effect of both, right? I often think about this in terms of our human relationship dynamics, that we hear people talk a lot about how relationships are supposed to be balanced. And I often think, like, the balance includes lots of inequalities. That is, like, in any two persons, in any kind of relationship, whether it's a friendship, a mother and child, a romantic relationship, whatever it is, that there are things that each person brings to the table and they are not in balance. And if they were, it would be a useless relationship. That there is a way that we support each other, and that the healthy, helpful dynamic is naturally inclusive of lots of imbalances, right? That our strengths supplement each other, and our weaknesses are met and supported by each other. And so there are all kinds of things. And so what we discern as a healthy balance is not equality and a perfect measurement of equal parts of this and that, right? It is some imbalance, inequality, but that is the right dynamic, right? So in order for things to be useful and constructive, there has to be a tip in one direction or another about all the different energies. And it can trade out. That there can be some moments and some times that one person is bringing a particular quality and then they can't do it, so someone else brings that, and you go like, are you showing up 50% today? Because I'm showing up 50% and you must meet me in the 50%. Like, maybe not. Right? Okay. This is also from the Gathas, the influence of time. I only bring you the readings that I love, so I don't need to tell you I love this. I just love it. All right, the influence of time. The sun represents divine light. The moon represents the human heart. The end. No, there's more. Night vigils are performed by the seers and the knowers of truth in the midst of the night, when the old day ends and the new day begins. That is a time of Kemal, which offers to the soul a perfect stillness. When the sun is at the zenith, I see you, Zahira, hold on a moment. This is Zahira, I should specify today. When the sun is at the zenith, that is Kemal also. But it has not the quiet of midnight. Therefore, it is considered by those who know things inauspicious for taking up any enterprise. You don't start things in a Kemal period. As time has influence upon weather, upon the sea, upon the trees and plants, so it has subtle influence upon living creatures. Man, human beings, appear to be most independent of the influences, and yet man is most under the influence of time. Not only his body and mind, but with all affairs of life. Verily, I love when he uses the word verily, verily, the one who knows the influence of time knows the secret of life. That is, knowing the right time to do things, the right time to wait, the right time to plan, the right time to rest, the right time to hold night vigils in the stillness of the soul. Zahira.
I was just going to ask you to reread something.
Sweet. The sun represents divine light. The moon represents the human heart. Night vigils are performed by the seers and the knowers of truth in the midst of the night, when the old day ends and the new day begins. For that is a time of Kemal, which offers to the soul a perfect stillness.
Can we practice that tonight?
We're practicing it right now. And yes, tonight as well. Was something in there what you wanted reread?
I just didn't understand it as well.
Was it part of that section that I just read?
Yeah.
Did you get it the second time? The sun represents divine light. We're good with that. The moon represents the human heart. We're good with that. Night vigils, which it could be like staying up all night praying, are performed by the seers, that is psychics. That's not quite the word, but actually he would probably use that word. Those who see clearly with the soul vision, seers, and the knowers of truth. Night vigils are performed by the seers and the knowers of truth in the midst of the night, when the old day ends and the new day begins. The reason the mystics tend to prayer all night long is because it is the Kemal period, when one day ends and another begins, and it is the time of the stillness of the soul. Did that help? Okay.
I guess what I was confused about is the Kemal, how that can be in the night and also in the day, and so that's where I get a little bit confused.
Yeah. So there's a Kemal period, at the peak of your inhalation before it shifts to the exhalation. And there's another Kemal period at the depth of the exhalation before it shifts to the inhalation. Peak of the day, middle of the night. Yeah. And it's really anything that is changing directions, that is like the moment that it shifts from one thing to something else is the Kemal period, when something ends and it moves in a new direction. Mm-hmm.
So what time is that a particular time? You know, like ashrams, they meditate, what, 4 or 5 in the morning? I mean,
It's so evil, isn't it? I mean, it's so holy, isn't it? Like, not my
yeah,
cup of tea,
when
but
is that change from sun to moon?
yeah. Oh, so also to add a confusion, I'm going to answer your question by saying yes. Like any moment is a shift from one thing to another. And you could say, well, it's precisely at midnight, but that's an arbitrary, like the clock. Nature doesn't care about our clocks and when it actually goes from 11:59 to 12:00. But there is a sense of that something pivots. Now, you could, if you were looking at it scientifically, you could find the exact moment that is the depth of the night, that is between sunset and sunrise, and the point specifically in the middle of that would be that. But that's a very arbitrary assignment. So you can go, here's the phase of the depth of night, where that power, that energy of Kemal is the strongest. Yeah. But also, Murshid would describe that a Kemal period is also at sunrise and at sunset. It's just the moment of shift from one thing to another. And those happen all the time. Yeah. But there are, those are bigger versions of it. Sunrise, sunset, and high noon, and depth of midnight, middle of night, not necessarily 12 o'clock a.m., but yeah. So, even in a pagan sensibility, we talk about the new moon lasting for 3 days. That we can find the exact moment, like here is to the second of when the new moon is officially the new moon, but that carries out for at least a 24-hour period, or you could say for, magically speaking, for 3 days. Hi, Chris.
I have a question. I find that this intersection fascinating with all those 10 things you read. And my question is, I have like a feeling or guess that in this intersection, in this Kemal period where there's silence or stillness or no motion, creation comes out of that. Does that make any sense?
Certainly, yeah.
I want to kind of live there in that place. So it makes sense.
Right? But if you live in that place, creation doesn't happen.
Yeah, right. Okay. I just want to access it more, but it's just this feeling that from that place, it's a transition, so it's something new. You're going from here to there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the goal isn't to live there, but the goal is to be conscious of it so that you can recognize it and enjoy, attune, pause, reflect, allow, bringing that intentional presence to the Kemal moments without rushing to the next and dwelling on the last, and with not anticipating it to be something that it's not.
And kind of what you said at the beginning, like when you're in that perfect awareness, that's when the spirit of guidance can speak. So if you can just stay attuned in there, creation, but it's that, what is that spirit of guidance first, that first impulse.
Yeah. I love all of your reflections and thoughts and questions and experiences. Thank you for sharing them and bringing them. It's good. We culturally are not very good at tending to Kemal. It's uncomfortable for us. We want to get the party started or something.
I think that's what I'm wrestling with.
Yeah?
It's like the zenith of the sun, the daily sun cycle. I mean, it's a mathematical construct. I mean, it's not really accessible to us. And I'm on a kick of each solstice. A summer solstice is like 3 days long. I mean, the day length is basically the same.
Yeah,
I mean, if you want to dial into which day has the fewest seconds, you can.
exactly. Yeah.
And so I think it's these outside interventions that are messing with us, if you will,
Yeah.
and getting in the way of appreciating just that
Yeah.
it's a moment of shifting,
Mm-hmm.
quiet followed by shifting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the words, it's hard to come up with words for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I go to quiet, and so it's
Mm-hmm.
much easier to relate to this day is done, the night,
Mm-hmm.
as Kemal, than it is the zenith of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, I'm just real aware of how difficult that has been for me my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
That transition coming from over here to there, going somewhere. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's okay to just be quiet and wait.
Mm-hmm.
That's very reassuring.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really moved to say, I think it's more than okay, it's like necessary. I'm seeing this mirror, when we thought it was flipped, the woman and the man.
Mm-hmm.
It's like where we put our attention is why I
Yeah.
thought that was backwards.
Right.
And it's also true, well, I'm a therapist, so I can't help but think about our nervous system and our autonomic nervous system and how much time we spend in sympathetic, like 90-something% of the time, and not going to parasympathetic and not
Yeah.
getting that as part of a balance,
Right.
that kind of balance. It's like
Yeah.
drive, go, go, go. If we could just start to think that way, it would help.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
That's our whole culture is like that. It's
Yeah.
like we're like, I feel like I was trained that way.
Well, you were.
So,
I know I was.
Yeah, for sure.
Greek
Yeah.
chorus. You were trained that
You were.
We were, I should say.
We're all trained
All
up.
were trained up.
way. Sorry, that was very loud.
the term that I think of when I think of like bigger life transitions is a term my friend taught me, which is liminal space. We're in this liminal space, and like you said, we can't, it's really hard to stay there. You don't know where you're going, right? You're in liminal space, you're going somewhere else. You're like scared because you don't know where the somewhere else is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's how I experience it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Murshid has some things to say about these things. Is this where it is? Yes. Okay. So this is from volume 2 on the mysticism of music, sound, and word. That's actually the name of that whole volume. Then this is from part 3, the power of the word. On chapter 6, you don't need to remember all these things, the word that was lost. For some of these things, they're excerpts, like I didn't include the whole passage, but I didn't change anything or move anything around, but there are a few sentences that I would take out if they felt too much. According to the point of view of a mystic, what existed before creation was the perfect being. Did you get that? We didn't really settle in there yet. According to the point of view of a mystic, what existed before creation was the perfect being. By divine perfection, a mystic means the perfection of beauty, of wisdom, of power, the perfection of love, the perfection of peace. I'm going to read all of it twice. Here's that again. By divine perfection, a mystic means the perfection of beauty, of wisdom, of power, the perfection of love, the perfection of peace. But all of that is what existed before creation. It was necessary for the perfect being, in order to realize her own perfection, to create a limited perfection of her own being. I made the pronouns feminine. I hope you don't mind. Nowadays, life never gives man a moment in which to be quiet, to ponder upon the true cause of his constant unhappiness. Also, it keeps him in an illusion, always looking outwardly. He can never find the cause outside himself. It is as if he were looking for the moon on the earth. Do you need any of that again? Nowadays, life never gives man a moment in which to be quiet, to ponder upon the true cause of his constant unhappiness. Also, it keeps him in an illusion, always looking outwardly. He can never find the cause outside himself. It is as if he were looking for the moon on the earth. Now, you may ask, what has man lost? The answer is God. That perfect intelligence that is in every being, that intelligence that the Vedanta calls light. In the Quran, it is said that God is light, which means that the light of God is immanent in the world of names and forms, in all that exists in this world of variety. Man, in this life of illusion, has the same intelligence, the perfection of which he can realize in that state of consciousness where he is aware of his own perfection. Did I lose you? Did you lose God?
Yes.
I know, right?
That's where I lost the reading.
Okay, I know.
Yeah.
Here we are again. Okay, so are we good with the beginning part?
Yeah.
Before creation, there's the perfection, the perfect being, which is all of these perfect ideal qualities, right? Okay, then here we are in our humanness, trying to figure out why we're unhappy. And trying to figure that out there. Ha ha. Right? We're good with that so far? All right. Now you may ask, what has man lost? The answer is God. That perfect intelligence that is in every being, that intelligence that the Vedanta calls light. Are we okay with that? I mean, are we miserable with that, but we understood what he said? All right. The Quran, it is said that God is light, which means that the light of God is immanent in the world of names and forms, ever present, constantly in all the aspects of the world of names and forms. In all that exists in this world of variety. Man, human beings, in this life of illusion, has the same intelligence, the perfection of which one can realize in the state of consciousness where one is aware of one's own perfection.
Can you read that one again?
I could, but I don't think it would help. So I'm paraphrasing it in my brain for you. Okay, so when is it that we, in our humanness, with our human minds, our human bodies, when is it that we can realize that the perfection of God is us. It is not when we're looking at anything in the world. It is not when we are trying to understand and make sense of all of the busyness of our minds and actions. When we are really, truly resting in the stillness of our own beings, we realize that that light of the perfect being is us. Okay?
So I've gone back on my horizontal line towards the vertical. I turned.
Excellent. Okay. The religions, the mystics, the philosophers of all ages have given the key to this secret. And that is what the Sufi message is bringing back to humanity. Christ has said it so beautifully. Be ye perfect, as your Father in heaven is perfect. The yearning of every soul is for the realization of that perfection. That is the longing, consciously or unconsciously, of everything, of every being in this world. That's all. So then we go, how do we do that? And constantly avoiding, or at least not utilizing, those moments of Kemal will keep us in the frantic distractions of everyday life and the entanglements of our busy minds and our nafs. I know. Yeah. So we have all of these practices that is the invocation towards the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance. We have zikr, which is constantly acknowledging for us that we run away from that unified God reality as far and as fast as we can, and then eventually we hit a wall and come running back toward the unity, towards the one. That's the il in the center of the zikr phrase. The la ilaha is the running away. That is the constant jalal. And then we go, oh, Allah, we come back. Yeah. Okay. So there is a Naqshbandi zikr instruction that is the simplest instruction. It would probably be better to just hold it as a fikr concentration. That means that we would just breathe it silently in and out. But we haven't sung anything for like an hour, and that's really not acceptable to any of our souls, is it? So we'll sing it and then breathe it. And I'll invite you, like, periodically, while we're singing this zikr phrase, reminder, instruction, invitation, every so often, do it on the breath. That is, even without me saying, everybody on the breath, but just like maybe choose every fourth repetition that you're just going to breathe and let other people hold it and just rest in the reminder of the instruction. So the instruction is Hush Dar Dam. Hush Dar Dam, which means watch the breath. Sometimes instead of watch, it said guard or protect, but watch is just fine. And so we don't have to do anything ferocious about it. It's just bringing your attention to the most simple, fundamental aspect of our life experience. Just being present to, attentive to the breath. Hush Dar Dam.
He said to be aware of your breath continuously. And that was always shocking.
Who said that?
Hazrat.
Hazrat. I like
He
you
did.
guys so much. I'm so glad you're here. I know. So he did. Would you like to say more about that?
No, I just found that shocking every time I heard that. I want to do that, but
Right.
like he made it sound so simple. Just do
Tall
that continuously.
order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Murshid's teacher, Abu Hashim Madani, said that the only sin for the Sufi is the breath taken without remembrance of God. The only sin is the breath taken without the remembrance of God, and the only virtue is the breath taken with remembrance of God. The only virtue is the breath taken with remembrance of God. So yeah, we're invited, encouraged to be conscious of God with every single breath,
And so when you're sleeping,
even when sleeping.
remember,
Yeah, yeah.
it's doable.
I know, it's true.
He did it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he did.
I have to try to remember what I did with this. What I did, it's not my melody. This was a melody from Forrest Farhad, Forrest Pierce. Where is that? Just a second, sorry. I feel like he did something really interesting with this thing. Hush, da da. 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 One more time. We'll have a few minutes of silent attention to the breath. just want to see if there's anything else I brought from Murshid that we have to cover. All of it. Here's a very short piece from a section on destiny and free will. When we arrive at stilling our agitation and becoming peaceful, resigning our will to the will of God, then we begin to see the love of God in all things. And never again think that God can be anything other than love. That is why the Sufi does not always think of God as a creator, as a king, or as a judge, but as a beloved, as a lover, and as love itself. And this, another short piece from the Gathas on superstitions, customs, and beliefs, but this is from a question and answer section. God grants wishes at 2 times. One time is when your heart is free from every thought or feeling or emotion in the most peaceful and tranquil condition. At that time, every wish that is sown is just like a seed sown in fertile soil. If one had the patience to wait in the great power of God, whatever be the wish, it would certainly be granted. The other time, when the wish is granted, is when somebody is satisfied, has been made happy by you. And naturally, out of that one's heart springs a kind of fountain which pours upon you a kind of blessing. It will be just like rain from above, which in time will bring its fruits and flowers. Oh, good. And then here, these are 4 little aphorisms from the Vedan, from the section of Alankaras that are just beautiful 1-line contemplations. But there are 4 of them, so it's 4-line contemplations. Though the ever-moving life is my nature, thou art my very being, O stillness. Here it is again. Though the ever-moving life is my nature, thou art my very being, O stillness. Speak, Lord, in the stillness of nature. My heart's ears are open to hear thy call. Speak, Lord, in the stillness of nature. My heart's ears are open to hear thy call. Silent voice, in the stillness of night, I hear thy whisper. The gently blowing wind kindles the fire of my heart. Silent voice, in the stillness of night, I hear thy whisper. The gently blowing wind kindles the fire of my heart. And lastly, we'll make sure it's a good one because it's the last one for today. In the light, I behold thy beauty, beloved. Through the darkness, thy mystery is revealed to my heart. In the light, I behold thy beauty, beloved. Through the darkness, thy mystery is revealed to my heart. finish with the prayer Nabi. It's in your little prayer booklet. And I'll actually put it in the chat window for you this time. A little more attentive now. A torch in the darkness, a staff during my weakness, a rock in the weariness of life. Thou, my Master, make earth a paradise. Thy thought gives me unearthly joy. Thy light illuminates my life's path. Thy words inspire me with divine wisdom. I follow in thy footsteps, which lead me to the eternal goal. Comforter of the broken-hearted, support of those in need, friend of the lovers of truth. Blessed Master, thou art the prophet